everybody, welcome to What Drives Us, episode 430 for October 13th, 2021. My name is Russell Frost, and I have the good fortune to be your tour guide on this week's adventure into sustainable energy and advanced tech mobility. Let me introduce this fine panel, and let's get this show on the road, because, you know, we took 2 weeks, I took 2 weeks off. Yeah, me. It was me. None of these guys all wanted to do a show and have a great time. I can't figure out why I can't hear anything. I'm a little freaked out. Everybody's being very
talking.
Okay, there we go. Well, I just wasn't sure. You know, it's been a couple of weeks. So, our technical expert behind the show and guide through Melon app, our broadcasting app, is Mr. Kacey Green.
How's it going? So we got some new features, and Russell has used a few of them, and we'll turn on more as the days go on. So it's a lovely 67 degrees here, and my car is launching me all over the DC metro area.
67 degrees there?
Yeah. Well, the sun went down like hours ago.
You can't really see this. It's 68 here right
nice. Now. So I know how it feels for you outside.
Yeah, exactly. It's like you're in San Diego, except you're not.
Yeah.
Next to Kacey on my screen is my friend in Northern California, where it is, well, it very well might be 68 degrees. I hope she is enjoying a brief break from the heat as I am. Georgia McKenzie.
Actually, we're back to freezing temperatures, which in California means, for me, under 80. And I'd like shout out to my Tai Chi teacher who likes to do it outside. And I was out there about pre 7 a.m. in 50 degree weather, thinking to myself, now where the hell did I go wrong in my life? I am freezing my butt out in here trying to collect chi. Only chi I need is under a blanket. But it's a beautiful day. I hope everybody's enjoyed theirs.
It's invigorating to do Tai Chi at 48 degrees before the sun comes up, isn't it?
That is not what it is. It's freezing. It's just freezing. There's nothing invigorating about it.
Our friend, who is the host of the Tesla Life Show and a general all-around good guy, Mr. Mark Coughlin.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. And I would have to say, Georgia, that your definition of freezing and mine are completely different items.
I have no more. I'm a part lizard.
This guy knows cold. This guy also knows cold, but not as cold.
Yeah.
Welcome to the show, everyone.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. And last and certainly not least, he is the owner of Boulder Hybrids in Boulder, Colorado. If you have a hybrid or an EV, he is the man on the front range you need to know, Mr. Paul Guzik.
Hey, glad to be back.
Yay.
I wonder if anybody's done the Hollywood Squares gag. You know, since we control where we are on this app, unlike the last one we were on, where it moved us around.
Oh, should I be doing that? Like, look, everybody. That's great. No.
Oh no, I meant like on the other one, like we start talking, it would just move us around, and like nobody knew where anybody was. You're like, on my screen it's like this, and then we're like, well, you're my bottom right on this one, and it's like, between Skype and Zoom and all them.
I have no clue. Well, I wanted to start today's conversation with what Patrick lovingly, and I say that in big air quotes, lovingly calls Russell's rant. Just because of my work, I spend quite literally 40 hours a week on the roads of North San Diego County. This puts me in contact with thousands of drivers every day. And I've noticed something. In California, it is the law that you have license plates at the front and the back of your car. That's what the law says. And I don't know, maybe because I'm old and police used to care about things like that. I can't tell you how many times, you know, like somebody would cancel your plates obscured. Your license plate lights is out. You know what I mean? And that was like a stop-worthy offense. In fact, one of my drivers at work literally got stopped for not having a plate, no plate at all on the front of his car, which was sort of the impetus for this thread, which is like, so a police officer stopped someone in a 2017 Kia Rio with no plate. Yet, from my rough calculations, about 80% of the Teslas in North San Diego County, no plate. Add in tons of new trucks that apparently don't want to defile the front of their thing, their enormous child-killing machine with a license plate. Add in, lots of high-end cars, whether they're German racing cars or Italian things, no front plate. But for some reason, this Kia, anyway, this isn't about the police. This is about, why is it okay to just go, I don't care?
Indeed.
Why is that
So,
okay?
I'm envious because I also live in a dual state plate with that nonsense. Like, I came from a state that only had the back plate, so that was just fine. We didn't even have this concern. But now I'm in a state where they're not as progressive as you guys, where you guys can have a replica of your plate made up in 3M reflective film, so that way you don't have to have the concerns that these folks have with plates, and you just stick it on the front. We have to have that metal garbage on there. So I had to find a mount that was acceptable to my wife that didn't drill a hole in the bumper, that also was acceptable to the police. So I've got it attached to my tow hook.
How is a car manufactured in the United States doesn't have place for...
So I'll clarify. Every car shipped to a U.S. manufacturer dealer has a front license plate mount, but it's usually in the trunk of the car. And in states where it's required, the dealer screws it into the front bumper to mount the plate on. But in
Or it's
states
got
where
a
it's
toggle
not,
for it.
it sits in the trunk. And we get cars that move here from out of state, and we say, hey, because Colorado, you need a front plate. And we say, hey, Mr. Customer, you need a front plate. Well, how am I going to fix it? With the mount that's in your trunk under the spare tire, and sure enough, it's always in there.
It's right there. Yeah. So on the Model X, it screws into the bumper through the paint. On every other Tesla, it either has a method built in, except for the nose cone Teslas. Either has a method built in or it's adhesive. So you don't have to worry about getting in trouble with the person who claims the car for destroying the bumper. Well, Model X wasn't that lucky, so I had to invent something. But if I had the sticker, I could just stick it on there, and it would be better aerodynamics, and nobody could easily steal it, etc., etc.
And I've actually got a ticket parked on the street for not having a front license plate. Like
I got pulled over. It's a non-pullover offense. This dude in Richmond pulled me over and said, "You don't have a front plate." And I'm like, "Dude, the pandemic just started, and the factory is closed. I can't order the part."
Our friend Dennis, who's been on the show, a big member of the Tesla community, when I had tweeted something out about this, had said that apparently, well, let's put it this way. Obviously, police aren't into enforcing some things, and this is one of those things they clearly don't bother with unless they feel they want to.
Yeah, like
but he said, but don't go to LAX and park in one of the lots, because what they do is the police go through the lot, ticket every car in the lot without a front plate.
Hey, boss, I met my quota today.
Basically.
Which frankly I fully support. But
and they don't have to get any arguments or anything, because it's all like they're parked, they're flown away.
There's nobody there.
You get a ticket in the mail.
Damn.
Nice.
Although you have to admire that. That's good hunting instincts.
That's smart.
I mean, it's certainly not something that's difficult to see, and I'm not into defacing anybody's car, making it less aerodynamic or whatever, but I am in with, if it's a law, you should probably comply with it.
Especially if it's something like not obscure, like don't cross the street between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. in a crosswalk that's not got a stoplight on or something.
Certainly there are laws.
Then there's the cops that use any little infraction to pull you over if you fit a profile. So, if your one license plate bulb is burnt out, they'll pull you over. If you're this kind of person at this time of day on the road.
You look like a stoner. You look like a minority.
Else,
I just don't like the look of your jib.
Well,
cutting my jib.
And in Colorado, people who drive to adjacent states like Kansas or Oklahoma, where certain products are not legal, and you have a taillight burnt out and a Colorado plate, you are absolutely going to get pulled over by the highway patrol. And they're going to see what else is in the car other than a burnt out taillight.
Which is why my driver was pulled over.
Yep.
Because the cop faded out behind him, ran the plate, came up with the owner and went, well, now that's an interesting owner. We should stop and talk to this person.
Yes. Because it was a company car, not their personal one.
Exactly correct, sir. Yeah, all company cars, all registered to the company name, which is clearly not in the food delivery business.
They don't
It's
have,
delivery,
like,
but not
a-
food delivery.
a generic corporate holding company name that doesn't
Right.
represent what the product
That
is.
is a good synergy, though. You could deliver food with the product.
You know, you might presuppose that if they were thinking ahead, they might have come up with the DBA that's like, yeah, you know, harmless delivery company or something, and instead,
Yeah.
no, they went for something a little more descriptive.
Right.
Pot delivery.
Let's just say it's
Do you
named.
need weed delivery company.
Yeah, it's named after a cannabis product.
Oh.
So yeah, there you go. But
Also,
yeah,
you guys have those digital plates now, so you didn't have to change them and deal with the stickers and crap.
you know what?
Some
I
of your
haven't
guys'
even.
plate options.
I think I've encountered one of those. Like I've just seen it, but yeah,
I saw one on the road the other day.
that's a little James Bond even for me.
This car is stolen.
Yeah. So that's it. I just, like it bugs me. I obey the law. I've got plates on the front of my Prius and the back of my Prius. And it's not that hard. I don't care if your Porsche or your Mercedes or your Tesla is going to be defaced.
But Russell, that just shows you're not a douchebag.
Right. Isn't that also allegedly why Mr. Jobs always had a new Mercedes every 90 days, so he didn't have to get the plate?
Allegedly,
Didn't have
yes.
plates.
Yeah, that is a fairly yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds like him because
He had the spare
That was
cash.
him. Yeah, he had a standing order in with the Mercedes dealer that they would ship a car to him every X amount of days, and he never had to register the car or get a plate.
fucking crazy. I just I can't imagine that kind of money. I just whatever. Ashtray's full. I need a new car, as the old joke goes.
No, the windshield washer's empty. Time for
Yes.
There you go. See, I knew Paul would have one. Well,
I
let's
need
go
a 90-day lease.
let a 90. It's right. It's $1,200 a day. Let's go to something a little more sensible and reasonable. Georgia has a story about some things happening in Michigan.
I'm impressed that at some point I've done something sensible and reasonable. So, oh wait, I didn't do this. This is Governor Gretchen Whitmer doing something sensible and reasonable. And what is it? She has signed a bill to have a construction started on their first EV charging roads. Now, this is pretty cool. It is this is an induction road, so it doesn't have to be connected to wires, and it is only a mile long. Sorry, it's not the whole highway. It is just a test. This is simply a test. It's going to cost quite a bit of money, but it's a sign of where things are going, and it would mean that basically your car would not have to stop and charge. You could just drive as long as you got road to ride on, which I think, especially for some of our long haulers like Kacey and Mark, they would definitely enjoy having far more induction roads for EV charging.
Because then you'd only need a big enough battery to survive off of the highway. Once you're on the highway, it recharges that battery and provides all the current power you need to propulse.
So this is a state-operated roadway in one of the 3 counties on Michigan's West Shore. So it's probably not going to be accessible to everybody and everywhere unless you make a special trip out there. And this is, let me see if I can figure it out. Yeah, this is inductive power transfer from the road itself, which is power between sets of coils on the roadway and a set in the car. So,
like your toothbrush or your wireless charging on your phone.
If it can charge my phone, I am definitely down for that.
Yeah.
So this new initiative is also, it's part of to help develop the country's first wireless charging infrastructure on public roads. And the goal for the state is creating more clean energy jobs, yay, and reaching carbon neutrality by 2050. We'll see if we can get that sped up a little bit more.
It sounds awesome, but it's never going to get rolled out because the cost per mile is gazillions of dollars.
Incredible. Yeah,
I'm sure it is. I mean, but what if, hear me out, what if instead of trying to add that to all the stretches of the roads, they broke it up and put it within stretches of the roads?
That would be smart.
because we don't we don't need it to all 100% be a charging road. But what if every 90 to 100 miles there's a charging section?
Hockey Day said like Mario Kart.
Huh?
Hockey Day said like playing Mario Kart. You got to get in the right lane to get the mushrooms.
It would be great if we got power-ups too. I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
So that-
And like Georgia said, it charges your cell phone. as
right.
But,
Zach brought up a good point that a couple of the Michigan folks brought up when I talked about this on one of the Sundays is they're not maintaining the roads they do have. They've got like potholes everywhere, so they wondered how this would hold up. Would you drive down the road and then shock yourself when the car hits a pothole and contacts the contactor, and now you
it would be kind of awesome if it would shock people in general.
Literally shock them? Like,
Just literally shock the people and get them off the damn
Literally shock
roads.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
I would say
But-
that anyone that wants to invest money in this type of thing is maybe drive in East Michigan for a little while first, because I've never seen a crazier set of roads under disrepair in my life than Eastern Michigan roads. All through Detroit Metro is an
I've watched-
absolute zoo. It's crazy.
I watched an
potholes,
Escalade disappear
the
in front of me
cracks
into a
in the
pothole.
road, like it's amazing they can't get it right year after year after year.
Mhm.
Well, I'm going to lasso this conversation right
Sorry.
back to what's going on in the article I'm discussing, because
Sorry.
valid points all. Yes, I get it. However, let those of you without shitty infrastructure cast the first stone. Nobody in America should talk shit about any state, because literally the one thing in America that we do have is an unwillingness to spend any money on anything until it absolutely breaks. So,
Right.
shh,
And
everybody
it's to the point
shush.
where now it's broken. It's more expensive than if we had done the daggum maintenance. in the first
Precisely.
place.
I have sat through way too many planning and city council meetings watching people argue that it costs way too much now to repair what's breaking down, and then watching that come back in about 8 years where, okay, it's broken and it now costs 3 times what the repair would have been. So until America gets that shit together, let's just focus on the article good side. The other thing is that this is hoped to also improve electric bus and transit out in areas where they don't have a lot of charging stations. So that it's not meant to be places where, honestly, with higher tax bases, because oftentimes that's what determines whether or not the roads are fixed and whether or not there are public charging stations. Higher taxes, and which means it's a far more gentrified area, and putting them out in rural areas where it would help, because
So you're gonna put
little to
them where
no-
you don't need them.
No, because when
Okay.
they add in public transit to those areas that is meant to be clean public transit, it would mean that they don't have to do a lot of work to develop also electric charging stations to cover what's often far more undeveloped and wider areas that they can't
That would
really
be
put stuff.
smart to put it in the decel stop and XL lane for the buses
Yes.
if it's fast enough. Yeah.
Now, and it's not just Michigan. State of Indiana is also doing that as well. So they're using magnetized concrete, which is an interesting form of technology. We'd see what happens. We're going to create a magnetic field. Now, I'm all for maglev, but the only time I've seen that work was my friend made one of those floating plant holders with a
Yeah.
maglev thing, which is pretty cool, honestly. If you
So,
get a chance to.
so hang on, the magnetic concrete. So when pothole forms, it goes onto the bottom of your car and you drive.
I guess not. I have no idea. So the field is created by coils buried in the road that mimic the way wireless charging stations for phones are designed. So again, adding that coil in, I don't know. But it's an interesting development. It's nice to see people trying things. Nothing is going to work right off the gate. We don't create and develop ideas in general that it's like, yeah, that's perfect and it fits every single need and resolves all the problems. So I understand why people are joking about it, but for once, an elected leader is not piss afraid of doing something experimental and putting
Yeah.
a little R&D money into an infrastructure project. So that I think should be celebrated.
Yeah,
I've
it's better than
watched
the
way too
alternative.
many cowards uh, where it comes to this kind of stuff, and that's why I thought it was important to highlight. So there you go.
I mean, give them an A for effort for coming up with an idea, but it's kind of lump it in with the hydrogen car, passenger car. You know, it's not. I don't think it's going to make it in the real world.
Well, like I said, nothing comes out the gate
Yeah.
fitting every need right away. People constantly talk about FDR and Social Security, and I have the unpleasant task of reminding them that Black people and women could not participate, but our tax monies sure did go into it. Shut up. So let's all understand that it's going to take refinement. It means we're going to spend money. We're not going to get every single investment back out of it,
Right.
but we're going to see if it works. And if it doesn't work, you know what? We spend a hell of a lot more bombing people and developing weapons. I was not going to put in the article about how they finally found a way to add some machine guns to robot dogs. But do you think I really want that money spent on machine guns to robot dogs? And by the way, you might want to get that little thing in front of your city councils now where you ban your cops from trying to get robot dogs that are outfitted with military weapons. So let me have our electrified road test and see if it works. Because I think I like that a lot better than Robo Pooch.
Right. And I do like that they're tests and they didn't just like committed to just doing all the roadways this way because this allows them to develop a standard and if somebody somewhere on commercial land picks one and that one wins, they don't have to outfit more than just another
Well,
re-outfit that 1 mile
and
when they
they
come back
should
and do it all.
start with like transit vehicles where
Yeah.
they're a fixed route. But for a private car, like let's say you wanted to drive down one of these roads with your Tesla, you'd have to upgrade it. It's probably going to cost $2,000 to $4,000. Who's going to pay for
Yeah.
that? Who's going to do
I
it?
think it's too huge for individual cars to. My
Well,
personal feeling is too huge for individual cars, but
Hyundai on
for
the
trucks though.
on the new Genesis was it V60 or GV60? The new Genesis that's the same as the Ioniq 5 and the EV6
GV80.
Yes, that one has an induction receiver built in, so that way they're trying to sell Witricity chargers at your house, but in theory it would work on
does
this
it
road
work
if it's the
in
right
motion
standard.
or is it for stationary use?
That would just be a firmware update if it's compatible with these two roads.
Yeah.
Well, just so you know, there was an actual link to one of the boring government infrastructure online magazines that's basically tedious, but I read through it. And they actually do talk about a successful project, I believe in Switzerland, where they actually put in and they tested a truck using one of these, and it did improve the mileage for a truck. And considering the fact that as we right now face a lot of supply line problems, and I know I can't be the only one who's noticed the lack of products in stores, and the media is now actually having the idiocy to ask the White House press secretary, what's President Biden doing about logistics for Christmas presents? Wow.
His job.
Yeah. Oh God. And that was actually a CNN reporter, not a Fox or One American News Network reporter. Um, that I think that we kind of have to understand that we're having a serious logistics problem, and we're going to have that ongoing because of the ravages of COVID. We can't have the kind of death count and the fact that we can't fully pack places anymore. We can't really pack factories anymore without running the risk of killing off skilled workers. And much of our infrastructure issues that used to just be, hey, the logistics of gas and long haul trucking and moving things around on a large scale. Um, we were just thinking about sustainability with regard to fuel. Now, because COVID is probably going to be here for a very long time, now we actually have to think about it in terms of the human cost of these kind of work sites. We've never set up work sites to have the kind of space that healthy operations during COVID would require.
Proper
So,
airflow.
whatever we can do to improve our infrastructure issue with regard to logistics and keep it sustainable, I think it's worth the investment.
All good thoughts. I appreciate the discussion, and yeah, I'm in the public transit thing. I think this should be started with dedicated electric buses that follow a certain route, and
electric weed.
well,
Where did that come from?
It's the 420 show, guys.
I guess so.
4:30.
Yeah.
I guess it's extra weed.
4:30. Yeah, it's like an extra 10.
Weed plus is actually what we're
Weed
talking
plus.
about here.
So, well, nonetheless, great story, Georgia. Thank you. Now let's go to a story that maybe isn't quite as uplifting, but nonetheless takes place in the Midwest and involves electric vehicles. Mr. Guzik, what's going on?
Yeah, so I saw this a bunch of places, but TheVerge.com had it pretty prominently. So as we sort of speculated, Lordstown Motors in Ohio was kind of circling the bowl and trying to figure out how to stay afloat. And lo and behold, FoxConn, the Chinese company that builds iPhones, came in and bought the factory. And then I guess they're going to lease it back to Lordstown until Lordstown completely goes out of business. Then they'll buy the whole company and IP, and they'll have a U.S. factory presence to build electric cars, maybe for themselves, maybe for Apple, maybe for who knows. So
Lucid, Faraday Future, all that.
yeah, interesting play. I'm sure FoxConn has deeper pockets than Lordstown did, and Lordstown was really running out of options. It cost a lot of money to start a car company. I think I read Rivian spent $1 billion last year and hasn't shipped, or at the time had not
six.
shipped it. Yeah. So, how do you equip the plant, do all the engineering, do the testing, pay your staff, pay the benefits without selling products? And luckily, Foxconn has probably built 50 gazillion iPhones, so they have some money in their pocket. But I think the way this will play out, Lordstown will go out of business. Foxconn will buy the IP. They'll get contracted by someone else to build cars in the U.S. to take advantage of U.S. Factory credits. Maybe they'll make it a union shop in the process. But interesting story, and good for Foxconn on seizing that opportunity, because who else would have been able to save them other than the government, maybe? So.
When this was all going down, I saw their stock went up after they sold their factory. I'm like, you have a car company that doesn't have a factory, but that is good. And
that's not proof that
let's
the stock
not talk
market
about insane
has
stock.
nothing
Really,
to do with reality.
Yeah.
I don't know what is.
right. It's so then my thought about this whole situation was since GM essentially owned it, if they went out of business, it looked like GM was like, just here's a factory, you can refurbish it, and we'll take it back when you go out of business.
Right.
And then foiled again.
Probably.
2 words: money laundering. Okay.
Or that. But so now instead of a nice U.S. factory for a U.S. company, either GM or an all U.S. company, you've now got the Chinese right in the heartland.
Well, Foxconn will probably build cars for one of the big 3 on contract and charge them.
So.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what they do. They build stuff for other people. Like,
But is there enough room to put nets around the building so the employees don't?
I honestly, that's the first thing I thought of when I saw that news, because I read that article too, and I was thinking about it, but I was like, no, I got nothing.
You've got
to say.
OSHA, you've got the union, we've got regs so that shouldn't be necessary.
Well,
that'd be awesome if it was like
non-union shop. I mean, Foxconn can run a non-union shop, and it's not as if they're buying in a place that's really pro-union. I mean,
we've still got standards
Detroit?
here for now. For now.
It's Ohio.
But that'd be awesome if it's a company policy that all your buildings have to have nets, and so they buy it, and now this thing has to have nets, even though it's like on the first story.
I do think it's interesting that of all the discussion I've seen around this, there's very little discussion. It's usually 1 sentence or 2 sentences to the illusion of how they screwed to the wall Wisconsin over that whole
Right,
factory head fake
did.
thing.
Yeah.
Like, why would anyone? Now I realize Lordstown beggars aren't choosers. They're taking the money. They don't care where it comes from.
Yeah.
But wow, like wow, why would you?
Yeah, the money came from Wisconsin taxpayers. That's where the money came from.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
I
right.
mean, seriously. And that's the issue. The people, I mean, you had the CEO forced out for confabulation.
Yeah.
Shall we
They
say?
align themselves with a failed political regime.
Yeah. And I'm just kind of like, so you're buying this. You're spending, I think honestly, they just spent what, 230 million
Yeah.
just to own some property, and I guess
Well,
it's gonna work out.
and Lordstown probably spent a bunch of money, like you said, upgrading the building and putting in equipment and, you know, planning to do it, but they ran out of money.
Yeah, because GM didn't give it up out of charity. GM gave
No,
it up
they
because
did
it was no
not.
longer strategic to keep it.
Well, it'll be interesting to see if Lordstown can actually become a real company, or if it's yet another sort of swing and a miss.
Or is this an Apple play?
That'd be cool.
That
I'm
Apple,
curious how
they're
Apple
going to
would do
build
it.
a car eventually. So let's
Yeah.
get Foxtown to hold the deed on the land. And as Paul said, when Lordstown actually goes out of business, we
You
can
got the
repurpose it
space.
to our own needs.
Yeah, because they should be further along with their product by then.
Well,
might be
it's
ready for-
nefarious, and it,
Yeah.
you know, I
So
guess
Mark,
it would
you did a
work.
little slip. Foxtown, maybe that's the new automotive.
That's what it is.
Yeah, I'm still like the Apple car. That is like such the mystery. Like years and years of this. Like what is Project Titan? Really, what is it? It's there. What the heck
Well,
are
it's
they
a car
doing?
that every 2 years starts getting slow and annoying. So you go, I'm just going to get a new one.
Oh,
It's only
Jesus.
available for lease, 2-year lease, and then you have to go back to your local phone store to get the next one.
Forgive me for maybe repeating myself here. I've been an Apple owner all my life since Apple started. I love Apple products. That said, in the last few years, I'm a little not as happy as I used to be. And I got to tell you, there's no way in hell I would buy an Apple vehicle. No way. Okay, I'm doing this on a Mac Mini. I've got an iPhone.
Yeah, Russell, but that's what people said when the iPod came out that had Walkmans.
About the competitor.
I don't know.
I'm not gonna trust my life to Apple technology. Let's put it that way.
We've decided you don't need window switches anymore. Oh, there's a fire? Ah.
God.
Well, I've been an Apple person since I was in school, although for the past 10 years or so, mostly on PCs. I mean, I have to use one for work, which is odd because normally I had the Mac at home and had to work on PCs at work. Now it's inverted.
Yeah.
I don't own an iPhone. All my friends own iPhones. I use Android. I don't use iTunes. I mean, I have gone completely Apple free, but I fully admit you put out an Apple car, I'm probably going to try it.
You would be interested in that.
I'd be
I'd
interested.
look at it.
Wow.
Because there's one thing about Apple. They innovate pretty well. They do really incredibly good designs, just as a product. I'm going to take a look. I fully own it. But unlike a lot of
But it's
people,
going to be triple the cost of.
it's going to
triple the
probably going to
cost,
be
and
triple the cost. But
it's going to be missing
they use
features that
top-of-the-line
Rivian, Tesla,
equipment.
GM all have on their cars for like years.
I think that they honestly will put together, if they did decide to do a car, they're not stupid. I know we do talk about them being overpriced, but once you get to component levels, and you have to and you try to match what their quality is, you're spending almost what it costs to get the Apple brand. Your savings is because you're not the one putting it together. I too, Benjamin, am a 20 plus year Apple user because literally went to school with apples. But I would give it a try. But as I always say, and this goes for Apple and this goes for Adobe, I don't do anything until we are in version 2.0.
Yeah.
Suckers
Microsoft, too.
go for that
Well,
1.0. Betas are fun, but only when I'm testing games.
Hockey day.
I
You gotta
wait
flip
for-
it over to plug it in.
You go for two. What is it? Even numbered Trek movies don't suck. That's the rule. And it's the same thing for Apple and Adobe. You let some fool rush in there for something pretty and let them be the beta. You wait until later.
I'd like to
Oh,
see. I
Microsoft
mean,
wait for
I've been
version
an
3.
Apple user forever as well, and going back to 07 when the iPhone came out, it truly blew everybody's mind apart. No one saw it coming, and if they can do that to a car, I would look at it.
Yep.
May not buy it.
All right. High five, Paul.
So the iPhone didn't have copy and paste. It didn't, the keyboard sucked. It
Yeah,
got
but the
better.
fact
It
you
got better
have the
quickly.
internet in your pocket,
I already had the internet in my pocket on my Windows phone.
Well, let's move on. I think Kacey has a story. About a really, really bad idea. Oh.
Yeah, so somebody else has been getting frustrated, just like me, with all the various taxes on clean vehicles. Yes, they use less gas, but their deployment is like 2% at the most, like in California, and like percentages of a single percentage point everywhere else in the country. And so they just tax them out the wazoo. So for where I came from in South Carolina, it's $500 extra to register that car, and your gas car is actually cheaper. Here in Virginia, they bundle it in with everything, so I can't even find how much it really is, but it's extra there too. And so these folks, they suggested satirically, so instead of an EV tax, why don't we have a pedestrian tax? This is a Canadian group. And I think it's funny, but at the same time, I'm thinking, don't tempt the politicians. They might try this.
Because you're walking on the sidewalks and not paying a gasoline tax. You better
Yes.
pay for it.
Who's paying for these daggum sidewalks? I already am in my property taxes. That's the point. It's like Georgia keeps telling us: services and other public goods don't need to be for-profit businesses. They just need to be because they're for the public good. They're written into law. They just need to be. Leave them alone. We don't need to. The post office doesn't need to turn a profit, and everything else doesn't need to turn a profit. Come on, guys.
It's just a dumb idea.
Oh yes.
Well,
But it's also so is the idea of taxing the EVs before they're actually deployed. I mean, the heavy trucks
it's a
do more
modest
damage to the road.
proposal.
Yeah.
I mean, you guys are you know that.
Let's eat the babies.
Yeah, we eat the babies. It's basically a modest proposal.
Yeah.
But I get the point. The problem is, I think the taxes can be egregious, and that's because you're not paying gasoline taxes and things like that when you're driving
Yeah.
around with your
But they're
EV,
not-
with your
they're not at the
fancy
replacement level.
sustainability.
Right, but if you made it like if you looked at how many miles I actually drove from Virginia, the car's tracking it all. Then charge me that. Don't charge me for all of my miles. Don't just make some number up out of your hat, and because there's a lot of people who have a car that only commute, and so they definitely aren't using the same amount of damage to the road that I'm doing, and I am not doing as much as a dump truck or a semi truck.
I mean, I think we've said in previous episodes, the only fair way would be base it on how many miles you drive and the weight of the vehicle.
Exactly.
And doesn't matter on the fuel, but the problem is how do you track it and keep everybody honest?
Well, the car is tracking itself constantly now, not just Tesla, but GM, Ford. Everybody has the GPS chip in there now.
There's been so many proposals that edge us, that push us towards this whole like mileage tracking tax horse shit that people have been talking about, and it's a nightmare. It's not a good idea. It's a bad idea. And I get why these sort of punitive EV taxes show up, because ICE manufacturers have lobbyists.
That's
And
exactly what it is.
They want to keep selling their cars, and I get that. But
we could also be like Norway, where Norway right now, they still don't have the EV tax. And so next year, the EV tax bonus goes out, and all of a sudden, they've got to figure out how to replace that revenue on all the gas cars. Because next year, also, it looks like there won't be a new gas car sold in Norway. Or if it is, it'll be like maybe 500 for the whole country. So they do need to replace that money now. And so now they're swinging hard the other way. And in their case, it is like everybody you look at is driving an EV. Okay, so we need a fair way to tax that. But here, outside of California, most people are still buying fossils, and you might just slow the carrot, stick and carrot, right? So right now, they're giving us the stick for doing what they actually want to give us the carrot for.
They've been giving us the stick for decades.
Well, two things. Two things I would say is that first, governments are kind of going backwards here. That we're trying to get to a doing things better way. We're trying to reduce pollution. We're trying to reduce CO. We're trying to get to the place where it's a more sustainable thing. So if you let lobby groups push you around and start charging EVs for extra plate fees or licensing fees or sticker fees, the way to combat is that join your local EV association. Get together with a group of people, because a number of people really make the difference when it comes to speaking to government or to politicians. It's having that group. So join a local EV association so you can all have your voice heard together. Secondly, I find that if these groups are going to make you step back and like, let's pay our fair share of taxes. I understand that, but don't tell us that a Prius and an EV are not close to being the same. Like when it comes to fuel usage, have things have apples line up together, not apples and oranges. So if an EV is being charged all these extra fees, at least make it equal to what a high mileage car would get and what they're paying. Don't just say, well, they're paying an extra $500 a year, but the Prius is only paying $200 a year. An EV should be aligned to the Prius more than it should be to the dump truck that you're aligning it to. So that's what I would suggest.
Yeah, because the dump truck is commercial. It's 8 times the size of my vehicle. I can't make a profit off of mine like they do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's why you need to be an Uber driver.
Also, vote in local elections. This stuff matters. They're the people taxing you, so vote.
Well, and as George has said, get involved at the local or state level, and
go to the meetings.
Make a difference.
Yeah, because the lobbyists are there. They've got people whose job it is to sit in the meeting. So
I've gotten to watch them, and
Yes.
they come in at our meeting started at 6, and if their issue went until midnight, they sat there until midnight because they got paid. You can do the same thing. Tag team.
Yeah.
Join up with people and tag team. And actually,
like your EV group could send 2 people. They could switch off at bathroom breaks, and then on the next meeting, another 2 people go.
Or like someone comes and I can sit here until from 6 to 7 and let you know when it's going to be on the docket.
Right.
Yeah.
Most meetings even stream if they're not broadcast on their on a government channel, and you can watch it and they will tell you when they expect to be on it, and you can pick it up from their website where they say X issue or public comment will be X time. You got no excuses.
There you go. Well, thank you, Kacey, for that. I'm looking forward to the pedestrian tax, the radio flyer wagon tax, the tricycle tax, and all of the other maneuvers to really get these bastards that aren't paying for our roads, because I'm tired of paying a gas tax.
That's right.
Let's go to Mark Coughlin. We have been out for the last couple of weeks, and Mark probably, I don't know, I hear every once in a while that Tesla comes up in the news. Mark, maybe you've been keeping a list. Maybe there's 1 or 2 items to talk about.
Well, I was keeping a list, but after 45 pages, I decided to give up. So
the microphone is yours, sir.
Yeah. So what I decided to do is talk a little bit about a major event that happened with Tesla just recently. And that, of course, is the Gigafactory Berlin has held an open house to the residents. It's a big PR campaign where they brought in 9,000 ticketed guests to come take a look at the new factory and do a tour, have a test drive, view the production facilities, and of course throw in some food and some carnival rides for the kids. So this happened recently at Giga Berlin. And Elon was there to make a speech, of course, spoke some German to the crowd's delight, and went on and discussed what the plans were, right down to daycare for factory workers. He was being peppered with all sorts of questions during his interview with a live audience, and all sorts of weird questions came up from in English and in German. And it was kind of interesting to hear him respond. But there's a number of different YouTubes that are out there of people that actually attended it. And a few of them actually did the entire tour. They streamed it. So if you have interest in what a Tesla factory looks like, that can be obtained on YouTube with many different channels. But one thing that struck me was these different YouTubers walking down the outside of the factory, trying to make their way to a door that would let them in and walk through the different process of production. I couldn't get over how long they were walking along a row of basically transport truck doors that were there for shipping or for receiving or both. But it was just amazing watching them. Just, they're talking about whatever, and it just goes on forever. It seems like these are very large facilities that until you're there in person, I imagine it's kind of hard to believe. But just passing by, it seemed hundreds of these transport truck doors for shipping, receiving was quite amazing to see. And then when they rolled into the plant, they had a number of different, they would have certain stops where you could see the gigapresses that were punching out new molds. You could go a little further and see a bunch of different robots that were assembling the vehicles. And there were different stations along the way where you had Tesla employees explaining what that particular part of the plant was doing and how it was going to be operating. Because, of course, the plant hasn't produced any vehicles yet, besides maybe the test ones that they're playing with the production at this point. But they have a number, of course, different stations that the public could see as to what these stations were doing and how they were going to be operating when the plant is up and running and producing cars. So, yeah, it was kind of interesting to see. I, of course, have been to the Fremont factory tour, so I was able to see a few things I was familiar with and other things that obviously have improved or changed from the Fremont factory, because Fremont, of course, was a known property that they purchased and then adapted their format inside that plant. Whereas these are custom built to what the new production procedure is for Tesla, what they find the most efficient. And those plants certainly reflect that in their look and how they're set up. So it's an interesting time. If you would like to go through some of those details, you can check that out on YouTube on many different channels. Just search Giga Berlin tour. And it'll come up with many different options for you to check out. And with that, back to you, Russell.
Elon was way loaded, dude. Okay, way under the influence of something. Can we get a consensus on that? Can I just at least, you know what? This is your chance to drink.
You not find
audience.
that Elon kind of behaves that way all the time?
So if you're saying that he's loaded all the time, I would agree with you.
I'm just saying that Elon performs differently than any other CEO that we've ever seen, obviously. But I just find that he is it his personality? Is it you think he's under the influence of something? But
yeah, clearly.
I think that he behaves similarly in many different instances. So if you're correct, Russell, then I would have to agree that he's under the influence a number of times. But he's he's a different guy when he gets on stage. He's certainly different than anyone else that you would see in front of a company.
Do you think that the Germany performance presentation, whatever you want to call it, do you think that was different than the other ones? Do you think it was pretty much the same?
Sometimes he's happy, but other than that, I agree with Hockey Day that this is probably just his autism or his personal style of presentation. And Benjamin also said the same.
Nah, he's just loaded.
Physical grade.
Well, I mean, even when he was there with the Everyday Astronaut doing the tour of the facility, he seemed the same over the entire 3 hours as when he's on stage, except a little more distracted because his phone kept beeping and he doesn't have his phone on stage.
I just had to get that in so that everybody in the audience could drink. That's
Oh, okay.
your chance to drink. Thank you very much, Mark, for this week in Tesla. I appreciate that, sir. As
he
always,
just kind of rolls with it like he's got this.
me?
No, Musk
not
just
loaded.
rolls out on stage with no prep, no practice.
Oh no, dude! It wasn't even that. Like he wasn't even aware of what was going on. Come on! And then he started reading random words in German.
Right. And then
Well,
his,
he was saying that the teleprompter was not
was different.
showing the same thing for him that was showing behind him.
Right, but
Right,
like at the
how do you
shareholder meeting, he
explain-
didn't even remember to do the Mega Factory, and then he didn't know how much it put out. He had to get the managers to tell him all that stuff. So it was interesting. He doesn't pre-prepare. He's just like, yeah, we're gonna roll with it.
It's not a matter of prep. It's not a matter of prep. It's a matter of his demeanor when he is in front of an audience. And I think it was markedly different in Germany. That's all. I'm just saying, dude was.
I think it was more
was
akin to the
money.
Cybertruck after the window broke. Like he wasn't prepared for it to not be ready, and so like when stuff isn't how he pictured it in his head, he just kind of like goes off the rails a little bit. Like he threw away half of the Cybertruck presentation, and then like when the prompt didn't match what he was expecting it, and it didn't match the
But he
screen
didn't
behind him.
ramble
He started
random
reading the
words
screen
in a
behind him.
language he doesn't speak.
Let's put it out to the people watching the program.
There you
put
go.
it in the
chat.
comments. What do you think? Does Elon did he perform differently in Germany than elsewhere?
And was he loaded, or is it just Elon being Elon? You decide.
Good question.
We'll save the Grimes discussion for another episode when I'm really
We're
slow
never going to
news
discuss
week.
crimes.
Yeah, we're never going to go.
I'm
there.
fine with that.
We don't care.
Me too. Let's go to Georgia to find out who's got an extra couple of billion laying around.
Oh,
This was fun.
me. This is
You
kind
do.
of funny.
Can I borrow some?
I
Georgia.
wish I wish I did. I would love to. Boy, would I be in trouble with that much money to throw around into things. So, hey, guess who had a little recall? GM last year. They said, hey, those Chevy Bolts made after 2017, the batteries have a little tendency to burst into flame. So there's a little issue. It gets hot. What can we say? We're a hot car, and we're uncontrollably hot, unfortunately. So bring the car back. Boy, that's sad. So there was a little dust up trying to figure out who's going to pay for this, because all these cars need to be recalled. You got to replace the battery. We got to compensate people. And we finally hit an agreement. LG, which normally I'm a big fan of, they're like, oops, our bad, because we made the battery. The LG chem cells were the culprit in that big recall. And, it's going to be something like 1.9 billion of 2 billion total for charges associated with the recalls, which for GM is actually pretty good, because they initially said they were looking for 1 billion in reimbursement costs from LG. So basically, I think LG kind of realized there was a lot of egg. I mean, basically a whole chicken farm's worth of egg on their face for putting an explosive battery in the Chevy Bolt. I mean, you want to ride the Chevy Bolt, but you don't expect it to turn into a lighter while you're going down the freeway. And
No, it's only when they're parked, Georgia.
yeah, you got to save it for when you're planning a cookout. That's when
Yeah.
you're supposed to burst
Yeah.
into flames. So, I do recall all the various techniques and tips on ways you could use your battery to cook food while you drive, but this was not one of them.
Right?
So, LG basically realized that kind of have to pay up. And since LG wants to keep that battery market, I'm pretty sure that's why this was a very generous deal to reimburse GM. Frankly, I can't speak for everyone else, but for me, I prefer LG electronics in my fridge, where they have a really good solid set of models, but not necessarily in my
Washing
car
machine.
battery, but we'll see.
So
And
what
that's
I
that.
don't understand how they let this happen. This just happened exactly play for play like it did in Korea with Hyundai. So they've seen all of this before, and I'm thinking surely they have a firewall in here. Surely they're not going to make exactly the same mistake as last time. They did the same thing. Oh, software update, we got it. Oh, replace some of the packs, we got it. Oh, actually every pack we ever made was a problem. Whoops. Oh, but that's on the manufacturer. They're going to pay for it. No problem. Oh, wait, here you go. Here's billions of dollars. Sorry. And then they did it again, exactly step for step. It's like, what? Come on, LG.
I don't understand it myself, because to me, you'd figure the first time the battery explodes, you kind of would fix that.
I mean, if I make a mistake for a couple $100, I make sure I don't make the mistake again. If it was billions of dollars, I would not do it exactly the same way again, just 3 years later. Just saying.
Hey,
I think it was
Manufacturing
2
at
years later.
scale
It was
is
2
hard.
years later.
sometimes people don't learn the lesson the first time.
Or
And
maybe they fired everybody who did the first mistake, and then the new guys made the same mistake.
Something tells me that this was probably somebody's cousin.
Oh. That would do it too.
Right?
And they can't get rid of him. What are you gonna do? You
You gonna fire the boss's cousin?
You can't get Aunt Marie mad at you. So
Yeah.
problem stayed.
It's also there's certainly companies, but let's be clear, it's not like you're going to go to Amazon and order the amount of cells that GM needs that GM is getting from LG.
Yeah.
You can't. Oh, we're going to switch to so and so. I mean, like, sure, maybe cattle or something, but there's you have to do the best to work out that relationship, because that's kind of the relationship that you're in.
And further to the point that Russell's making there, LG actually built and designed almost all of the Bolt. They just did the motors, the controllers, the air conditioner. So they built everything around their battery. So it's even harder in this case to go find a substitute swap in than it would be if you built the car and you had the specifications.
But I'm sure GM's legal department has a contract that says if this sort of thing happens, it's on you, and you got to buck up and make it right, and that's why they're doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is a pretty critical business relationship. So you don't want to screw it up with your explodey batteries. I mean, save that for, pranks.
I'm sorry. I think just the show title is Explodey.
Explodey.
Explodey batteries.
Explodey. I just like
JT has a point. Ultium is LG is the main partner for Ultium as well, so they had to keep that business going, as Russell's saying, and Georgia, they have their contracts and they want to protect that future business.
It's
so you gotta
hard
make it
to
right.
find partners at that scale.
It is.
Yes.
It is.
I
mean, look at Tesla. They're searching all over the world, and they're buying people. They're buying whole production, and then they still can't get enough. So look at what Ford did. Ford didn't want to own it, so they bought 100% of the output of their partner. So it's tough.
Chevy Bolt Bonfire?
Bonfire.
Chevy Bolt Bonfire.
Bonfire. Oh, is that like a French Canadian thing? I'm just asking. Bonfire.
You never heard of a bonfire?
I've heard of bonfires, but it's BONE, and I said,
Well, bonfires
Well,
are usually what
Chevy's
you find in
giving,
video games.
I'm writing that down. Hockey Day.
You buy a Bolt, Chevy's giving you like marshmallows, graham crackers.
A s'mores kit with every bolt.
No. You
That's
buy a
cool.
Bolt, and you need to rub the brisket before you get it onto the grill. You got to get the coffee rub and maybe a little marinade first. And then you cover the bolt with some foil and let the smoke make
So, all jokes aside, even with the the spontaneous combustion of the bolts, they were still less combustible than the average new fossil car. So
it's true. Less combustible
Well,
than the average fossil car or a person who
I was
consumes
talking to
way too
someone.
much tacos.
Yeah, I was talking to someone the other day, and they're like, those bolts are no good. They burst into flames. And I said, I think 250 gas cars every day in America burst into flames. It doesn't make the news.
ever,
No.
unless somebody got trapped inside or something.
And
I
in fact,
really have to wonder,
Is it
why
up to
are they
12
bursting
bolts
into flames?
now? Have caught on
yeah,
fire?
it's not very many. But
Yeah.
I mean, like we saw for years, the BMWs of the Asia Pacific region were just catching fire on the 12 volts, and nobody really cared. I mean, eventually, I think they got it down, but I still haven't seen an announcement they fixed it yet.
There you go. Well, for our final story tonight, we're going to go to Kacey, who has, I don't know, there's some kind of beta thing that the kids are interested in. I don't know if it's on TikTok or on
It's a ticky talk.
WhatsApp, or maybe it's on MySpace. I don't know. Kacey, what is this thing that everybody wants a beta of?
So while we were on hiatus, I was driving my car very carefully to get the 100 safety score. So what this is,
I love the idea of all these Tesla drivers like, oh my God, don't make me brake. Please, for the love of God, don't make me brake. I'm sorry.
especially with me with the performance one, it was like, I can't use this thing. And so what the safety scores were, for those who missed it because we were offline, Tesla came out with a way for the car to grade you using their insurance system, because Tesla sells insurance in California and soon in Texas and New York. And so they really were using us to beta test the insurance tester. And then if you got a good enough score, they would then grant you access to the full self-driving City Streets Beta. I passed. So Monday morning early at 5 a.m., my car downloaded the software. And, it uses the full performance of my car. Like, we were coming into a turn onto a main road to launch. Ludicrous mode. Boom. It's impressive when it gets stuff right, and it's also incredibly exhilarating when it gets stuff wrong. We talked on the Tesla Life about how sometimes they'll try to steer me into oncoming traffic. So for those, there's a reason that they say keep your hands on the wheel and pay attention. And so I'm glad that they made sure that people with high scores were more likely to pay attention. I don't know that I still think they were too strict, but the way the system runs, like, I just keep my hands when it's turning. I just keep my hands on the outside of the wheel, and the wheel spins inside my hand. And if it's screwing up, I just tighten my grip and take over. It's impressive the way that it runs. Like, the green light's on, it just goes through. Usually, it picks the correct lane to go in. It doesn't always signal for its turn.
Usually is doing a lot of work in that sentence, Kacey.
Usually, it's doing a lot of heavy lifting with its software. When it makes left turns, it doesn't signal to get into the turning lane, so that's always fun. But the one thing they did is they didn't delete the beta software report button, so I'm able to actually take a snapshot of what's going on, and then I'm able to write the time down and email the software engineers and say, hey, here's what it did. Please fix that. Like, outside my house, it thinks there's 3 stoplights, and there's only 1. So it stops 3 times before it gets to the real stoplight. But that's actually not even new. That's from the maps. So I was able to send a report in on that. And every time I park the car, it's sending out Blu-rays worth of data straight up to the internet, straight through my little internet box right there. And I'm enjoying it. It's definitely not something I would want to release to like my grandma. Like, hey, grandma, just drive the car, it'll be fine. No. But I don't feel like some of those people who were like super late, you have to be special to drive this car. No, if you've been driving autopilot for the last 5 years, 4 years, 3 years, 1 year, and you haven't crashed yet, I think you can handle this as long as you are not one of those people running around with a seatbelt faker and a weight on the steering wheel. If you do that, you're going to be dead in a week. I promise you.
Kacey,
Wow.
just a general question. When you think of the times that you're using this,
Yeah.
what percentage of those times would you say that FSD 10.2 is making the correct decisions?
I'm using it anytime I have left a driveway or parking lot until it brings me to the middle of the next driveway or parking lot. It'll actually bring you there and it'll pause and say, hey, autopilot is paused. So I would say it's making the correct decision like 98, 97% of the time. I'm very infrequently having to correct it. Some of the mistakes are just minor, like it picks the wrong lane, or it's going too fast, or it freaks me out, so I push the brake. I've gotten to the point where I'm now adjusting the speed and giving it turn signal inputs when I think it's wrong. That way I don't have to take over and then turn it back on. This motion is the pulling the stock twice to turn it back on. And I'm impressed with it. It's doing.
So you,
like
you would say
99%
it's
of my
that
driving.
high. It's 97, 98% of the time it's making the correct decisions.
Yes, but it's the March of Nines here. We really want it doing 99.999% of the things correctly, because those 3% can really kill you. Like ending up in the wrong lane, facing the wrong direction. That'll do it. Benjamin says he'll stick to manual driving for now. Yeah, this is not the final product. This is they call it beta. I would probably call this alpha. I guess the reason they're calling it beta is all the features are there, but it's in need of more work. And like I said, I think that anybody who has experience driving regular autopilot for a long enough time with the navigated autopilot, where it's changing lanes already, and you're used to it doing stuff on its own, turning on blinkers, moving lanes, starting and stopping, you can handle this if you're paying attention.
Kacey, does it have a feature where if the car does something stupid, you can say that was stupid and it reports it back so that they can take that into the database and learn from that?
Yeah, so there's a button on my screen. I can push that. It'll save some amount of time and all the camera footage, as well as all of my input and what's on my screens, and send that to Tesla.
Okay.
And hopefully they can do something with it. But even better for them is if you can say, hey, at this time I pushed the button because X, Y, Z. So that way they can know exactly what they need to do to fix it. And that is
like,
really
why did
awesome.
you turn me in front of the oncoming semi-truck?
Exactly. But even if you don't do that and you just push the button, that gives them more data that they can look at. But even that, like if you don't notice and you just fix it when it does something wrong, it's watching every time you fix it and it's making a note. And the system is learning from those, but the human's actually looking at it when you push the button and send them an email. Yeah. So I'm hoping in the next week or 2 weeks when they get to the next version, we can see a marked step change in improvements. And I'm hoping that by the time Thanksgiving rolls around and I go show my grandmother, hey, look, this is the future, that it will actually be impressive and not, oh, shoot, it took us in the wrong lane.
Right.
There are some roads, like I was coming back from Delaware and Maryland the other day, where there were rural roads, and so there were flashing lights that look like traffic lights that let you know that Farmer Joe may be coming on the road, and so typically the car would drop out into just straight auto steer, where it stays in the lane and tries not to stop for the lights, or tries to stop for the lights depending on what it thinks it saw with the traffic control appearing device. It's just a yellow light saying, "Hey, look out for farmers." So because those were there, it dropped out of navigated autopilot and went straight into City Streets Beta. We're running 60 miles an hour down the road. It's passing people, and like the other system couldn't pass people on these roads because it thought they were not a highway, and it was doing the right thing the whole way. That was like over an hour that it was just running its move. I didn't correct it for anything, and it was impressive. But then, like I said, it'll change lanes in the middle of an intersection, or some traffic circles it does perfectly, and some traffic circles it's afraid to do them, and others it sees the car pull up to the edge and it wants to stop.
Humans are afraid of traffic circles.
This is true. It felt exactly like an older person who just saw their first traffic circle. Yes.
It was a little stressful watching your notes on your driving as you attempted to hit the metrics to be approved for this.
It was super scary because you gotta watch your braking, you gotta watch your turning, and anytime you had to correct, because autopilot, old autopilot got a pass, but they also tweaked autopilot right before they gave us that build, and so it would brake very late. So you're coming up to a stoplight and it won't even start stopping until 600 feet. But if it's a busy road at 50 miles an hour with the speed limit, it's coming up, and there's cars that are 1,000 feet back. It's not trying to stop until it sees the cars, and the radar had a 50 mile an hour offset. So if you're doing 52, it thought those cars weren't there. So you got to brake, and now you lose points. So what I was doing is I was kicking out of autopilot and letting it coast to a stop.
Yeah, it was very stressful to watch his Twitter feed when he got in on his stats.
I complained to Elon a few times. I'm like, hey, if the basic version of autopilot they had at the time could do it, why couldn't I do it? And now it's even worse because when I talk about the aggressive cornering and hard braking, the new one, as I said, if there's an opening in traffic, it'll turn the wheel, it'll creep out, peek out until all the cameras can see it's clear. And then when there's an opening, we're gone. There's no warning. It's just instantly the speed limit. And
There
if I
should
did
be a
that,
button you could press on your app that would show the safety score of FSD Beta.
I think it would get a 50 for the FSD Beta and a 40 or less for the old autopilot.
Exactly.
Well, I'm glad you took the time to test it out and show us what it takes. But because you do that for those people who are ready to be first to test.
Yes.
And I'm sitting back here waiting for Baymax to be developed where,
right.
I want an
to do.
AI I can have a discussion with.
Right. I'm hoping to train it so that way to the point that my grandmother could get in this, turn it on, having never used it before, say, take me to the library, and it would take her to the library smoothly, confidently, not like a golf cart, but like if she was driving, but now she could be over there reading a book when the thing is fully completed.
That's
yeah,
what
exactly.
I want.
I don't know if you want the car to drive like Grandma would drive.
Oh, my grandma. My grandma's a rather aggressive driver. It runs in the family. Baymax would be awesome. Yes.
That's what I'm waiting for. Baymax.
Yes. Even Cortana before the rampancy.
No, I want a Baymax. Sorry.
I think more like the Clippy from Microsoft.
No.
Looks like you're trying to drive to school.
Do you need some help with that?
Right. Mm-hmm. Oh,
It looks
the
like
other
you
thing
want to turn right. Would you like to turn right?
Right.
Shut up,
the other day it was like lightly drizzling, and the car was complaining that the windshield was dirty, and it said it was going to wash the window, and it didn't. And then we came back from that errand and put it in self-drive, and all of a sudden I see water on my windshield, like it's puddling, because on the Model X the water comes out of the windshield wipers. And it was washing the windshield, and I was like, "Whoa!" Saw down on the screen, it's washing the windshield because it thought it was dirty. I'm gonna have to keep an extra bottle.
So you
in
have
the trunk.
you have a critical Tesla that just thought that you were a bit slovenly.
Yeah,
okay,
it's like
Kacey.
you haven't bathed me in a week. I'm gonna wash this window.
That's right.
Exactly.
Got a sassy car.
The other day I was making a turn in manual mode, and it's like, you did that turn sloppy. I'm helping you adjust. I was like, no, I did it correctly. Don't adjust me into traffic.
That's the backseat driver mode.
Exactly. But the good thing is it's always able to be overpowered, so don't be afraid to correct it, and they learn from that.
There you go. Well, on that note, let's end this very pleasant hour and plus that we've had together. Let's do some shout outs and go home. I'm going to start with Mr. Paul Guzik.
Yes, I want to go home. It's been a long day. But for those of you in Colorado, check out our shop, boulderhc.com. And one day we'll have more inventory. But if you want to buy a car, boulderh.com. We did sell a Bolt and a Leaf this week that we had. So,
wow.
Oh, there you go.
And I guess you're going to be getting those back.
well, the Bolt buyer had a Bolt already, and
Okay, so they knew what they were getting into.
He's going to get a free battery when they're available.
So he's just
Excellent.
going to fit a grill over the top and go with that.
He's going to
Actually,
drive
that
it
would
like
be- that's a-
out of hell until he gets a whole new battery system.
Right, that's a smart move. You can charge it to 100. You can drive as fast as you want,
Okay.
brake as hard as you want,
Hammer it.
and then
And then I'll probably get a new one, and hopefully in Goodwill, there was a 238-mile Bolt. Maybe they'll give him a 260-mile version battery.
yeah, because they're only making one pack probably for a while.
So
So you get
cool.
a reset, free battery,
Good for them.
and you get the car at a discount because nobody else wants to buy it. That's a
They're
smart move.
They're still selling
still
pretty
buying.
well.
So,
Yeah.
Used.
all right.
Well, thank you, Paul. You can visit Paul at Boulder H or boulderhc.com. Boulder H is the car sales site. Boulder HC is the repair and upgrade site. If you're anywhere near the Front Range, Mr. Guzik is the man. And I say that because I drive a Boulder HC car. Thank you, Paul. Mark Coughlin, what's going on with you?
I would like to ask people who are still watching this video at this point to press that like button. It helps us out immensely. And if you haven't already, please also press the subscribe button. And Paul, stop touching that button. Paul just unsubscribed.
Years ago.
Oh,
But
Paul.
yeah, if you would subscribe, that would help us out. And you can also follow What Drives Us on all the socials. Just look up What Drives Us on whatever social media you're on, and that's it. It's that easy. We're everywhere. Just
And if
follow
you
us.
really like what we're doing, there's a join button next to that subscribe button where you can join
There
for
you
a monthly stipend, and it helps everybody out for sure.
There you go.
Helps us
Absolutely.
pay for the show.
Casey Green, what's up with you?
So I make videos for YouTube.
Oh,
On
no.
Sunday I do a
Really?
little chat stream, and over at youtube.com/Kacey Green, KACEYGREEN. You can catch my videos upcoming of the FSD Beta, as well as I've still got the deep dives of all the other stuff that came before the FSD Beta, either already posted or on the editing deck to go up there. So take a look. Thank you.
Do check out Casey's adventures with FSD 10.2, but don't make fun of him.
I mean,
Well, make a little.
I'd prefer you not make fun of me.
Yeah, absolutely. Casey's a good guy. Don't do that. Thank you so much, Casey. Do visit him on his YouTube channel. Georgia, what's going on with you?
Well, I'm going to give a shout out to Free Spirits. I just found out that there is an alcohol-free brand of spirits where I can get alcohol-free tequila, bourbon, and gin. And I'm about to drop some money on that because I don't drink alcohol, especially when it's time for the annual weightlifting attempt. You know, getting back into that weightlifting shape. So that sounds pretty good to me. Shout out to Twitter for letting me know that this actually existed. So I'm gonna do that. The point of that hockey day is I cannot drink alcohol, but I do happen to like an alcoholic-y sort of beverage on occasion. So if you have been here for this damned long, you obviously like our content. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe. And for those of you who think, I've already subscribed, you know I like you, why do I have to hit it for every individual show? Because those individual likes per show demonstrate that we have a consistent audience. So that's how it helps us out. And that's why hitting like to every show that you've hung around for is a real great boost to us. Head on over to Casey's channel, and you too can stress out watching him try to be the perfect driver to qualify for this driving mission, whatever the heck thing. And don't forget to stop over by Mark, because he has all the Tesla scuttlebutt, and you can talk all things Tesla with him. And, you know, Paul's got some cars. They may or may not blow up because they're not.
Well, they won't blow up because of anything he did to them.
Once he's done repairing them, they will not blow up. Except
Yeah,
maybe the
there we
bolt.
go.
Unless it was a factory defect.
Right.
Unless-
It was built in.
But and we are grateful for you for hanging out with us tonight, because we know you have other things you could be doing, but you chose to spend it with us, and we like that. So I'm going to bounce that back over to Russell, who is recovering very nicely from a little bit of road dancing with his motorcycle and a
I have
car.
really good scars now. I don't.
Now you're a badass. Now it's like post-apocalyptic
No,
Russell.
you know what? Yeah, if you're like in your 20s and you got like bad motorcycle accident, scooter accident scars, you're a badass. If you're 60, you're just a loser.
No. This is very
That's the
Yul
problem.
Brynner in whatever that movie was where he was like the fighter in post-apocalyptic New York. I've watched a lot of trash movies growing up.
Wow, I don't even know what that one is, but
I really
good
do.
call, Georgia.
There you go.
Well, thank you. As always, I want to thank Michael Mannering for his theme music. Visit him at manthing.com. Buy a song, buy an album, buy something. We appreciate your support of him because he supports the show, which hopefully you enjoy. As Georgia and Mark said, you can visit us all over the place at What Drives Us, whether it's Facebook or Twitter or Instagram for now until I kill that. Yeah, I'm going to kill that account. I swear I'm this close. Other than spreading Instagram hate, I want to thank Paul Guzik, Mark Coughlin, Georgia McKenzie, and Kacey Green for another fantastic show. We will not be here next week, but we will be here the following week. So enjoy your week off. Pepper us with questions. Follow us on social media. And until then, tune in and find out what drives us.
All right. Hey, everybody, stay safe.
Bye
If
bye.
you hear our voices, you're hallucinating next week.
Or it's a rerun.